The state of Greenwood Leflore Hospital is a topic that's on a lot of minds in terms of employees and the patients that it serves, not only throughout Leflore County, but beyond. Here discussing both of those things and much more is Greenwood's Mayor, Ms. Carolyn McAdams, and representing Board of Supervisors, Mr. Anjuan Brown. Good morning to you both.
Good morning. Good morning, Candi.
Yeah. How do you feel like we ended up here?
I think there was we got involved with the perfect storm. I think there was multiple factors that played into how we got here. Number one, the Medicaid reimbursement, or the lack of. You know, there was a cut on that. There was some cut on our federal grants that the hospital received over the years. COVID hit, which was a big strike, and the other thing, we had our state turned down the Medicaid expansion. That was a lick, not just for us, but for across the state. All rural hospital was affected by that. I'm not saying the Medicaid expansion would have solved all our problems, but it surely would have helped.
Greenwood Leflore is not the only one struggling at this point. In terms of rural hospitals, right. It's a tough climate for them all for a multitude of reasons, as you mentioned. With Greenwood Leflore specifically, how do you feel like we ended up here in a situation that we do need new leadership to take over before the doors are closed?
Well, I think that we ended up because so many people were asking for just minimal health care, and when they could not pay, and we had to absorb that cost, and we didn't have the Medicaid expansion, then we suffered greatly from that. I mean, we didn't have a way to recoup those expenses that the hospital had to incur during that time, during all the years that we've let the Medicaid payment go. So that is an essential component. I feel that Medicaid is essential to rural hospitals, and especially in the state of Mississippi.
Putting politics aside, the fact is they did not vote to accept more federal money and expand the Medicaid program, which means you've got people coming in needing services that the hospital eats, knowing they provide these services because as humans that's what we do.
Correct.
Knowing they're never going to get paid for it.
Right.
So by not doing that, it has put partly some of the reason that the debt has continued to pile up. And while, yes, as you mentioned, other hospitals are in similar situations, the difference, though, is that Greenwood Leflore is the closest to closing its doors. So you're at the top of the list for the level of concern here.
Correct.
Which brings me back to my question as a leader. You know, it's kind of like, okay, guys, we're in this situation. Where's our saving grace here?
Correct.
Yeah. I think have been some conversation with some of the leaders in our state, not only our legislators, but some other people that is concerned about our hospital. And as the mayor stated, some of the answer they got is they have several hospitals that facing some of the same things that we're facing, and it's almost like who you helped here, you help this one, you got to try to do this, and I do understand that from a perspective, but there is a concern on state level for Greenwood Leflore Hospital.
Do you think they should have done more, or something at all, really?
Oh, I do. Yes.
Do you feel like they should have stepped in and said, hey, we could be responsible for part of the situation you guys are in?
With you mean not having the Medicaid expansion?
Possibly, or just really any support, you know, at all, because it would be a huge economic loss. Aside from the health care jeopardy, the economic loss would be astronomical.
Well, as Anjuan said, we have been in conversation with our leaders, our state leaders, and so they're all well aware of what's happening. I was told that actually if the state had to come in and help every hospital that was in the same boat as Greenwood Leflore, they would have to put out to the tune of $600 million, which the state actually couldn't sustain that.
Here discussing all the things, Mayor of Greenwood, Carolyn McAdams, and also County Board of Supervisors, Supervisor himself, Mr. Anjuan Brown.